Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to the first video of 2020. Let's kind of dive right in a little bit. We'll be talking about steel. Now, Valhalla Ironworks and Sandtown's Bladesmiths have already talked to you guys about scrap steel and how to use scrap steel and, what scrap steel is good for and whether or not scrap steel is good steel or bad steel, and that's not what this video is about. They did a really good job at emphasizing, what scrap steel is used for. This video is a little bit about scrap steel, but it's not about tool steel. So everything that they talked to you about was tool steel. It was steel that was designed to be used in hammers, of various kinds, and or different other types of tools. We want to talk about other different types of steel, not tool steel. Okay, in my opinion, there are two different types of steels. There is, number one, tool steel, and that's the steel that has already been talked about. That is the steel that we know what the use is, we know what we're supposed to do with it, and that has been beaten to death. And the second type of steel is what we're going to talk about today. And that is steel that I like to call whatever steel. And the reason why I like to call it whatever steel is because for the most part, you can use it for whatever. If you want, you can use it for a tool. You can use it for a hammer. It's not going to harden unless it's hardenable steel. It is not going to hold an edge unless it's hardenable steel. But whatever tool steel is whatever you have lying about. 99.9% of the time, whatever steel is non-hardenable. It is what is referred to here in the US as mild steel. It has a couple other names, I think A13, sometimes you'll see like 1010 or 1025. It basically has a very, very low carbon content. And the reason for that is that it doesn't need to have that high carbon content. It is going to be used for whatever. What we as blacksmiths use it for are things like this. All right, this is the guillotine tool that I made in a previous video. It's made out of whatever steel. Bending jig, made out of whatever steel. My upcoming quench take video, whatever steel. It's whatever steel I had lying around. And that's what I'm going to talk about how and what to buy today. So whatever steel can be purchased from a supplier. You can go to a steel supplier and say, I would like a stock of 10 mil round or 5/8 square bar or whatever by whatever length. If you do that, it's going to cost an amount. I'm not going to say, I don't really know. It really does depend. A lot of steel is sold by weight, but it does take a little bit out of it, whether it's cold rolled, whether it's hot rolled. Cold rolled is more precise, hot rolled has more wobbles on it. Cold rolls generally doesn't have much scale on it, or if it does, it's very, very thin. Hot rolled has a lumpier texture to it. Most of the stuff that we as blacksmiths are going to use it for, we don't care. Because fact of the matter is, it's going to go in the forge, it's going to get scaled up, and it's going to get beaten with a hammer, so we don't care really how precise that shape is. Now, if you're a machinist, you care. You care a lot. And this video is not really for machinists, it's mostly for blacksmiths. So, where do we get the steel? Now, we've talked about found steel for, tool steel. All right, so this is my steel rack. There's a lot of things kind of in the way. This right here is all of my tool steel. All right, you will notice springs, forklift tines, down here where you can't see more springs, more forklift tines. But what about this? This is the only known steel in this entire area. All right, and a whole bunch of cutoffs are down there at the bottom, which you can't see. And these are for when I need performance. All right, I need to know exactly how that steel is going to perform after quench. I need to know that it doesn't have any microfractures. I need to know all of that. This rack, I can still use it for whatever. So this still counts as whatever steel. I'm not going to use this because I had to pay for this, and this was expensive. The rest of this, got basically for free, which is awesome. This area, pay no attention to that. That's another project. This area, so this rack and this rack, that's all mild steel, all right? I mean, you can see some painted bars, you can see angle iron. I have them separated into bar stock and hollow stock. Flat bar and hollow stock is this shelf for the most part. And this shelf is solid bar. This one right here is 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch square bar, and it is solid. All right, this is scrap. And you ask me, well, how do you find scrap mild steel? Well, you find scrap mild steel in the same place that you find normal mild steel. You find it at the scrapyard. Pretty much, if you can stick a magnet to it, it's forgeable. The difference is that cast iron. Cast iron, sometimes you can stick a magnet to it and it is not forgeable. Cast iron is never forgeable, but magnets stick to it. But for the most part, go out there with a magnet. If a magnet sticks to it, grab it. You take it home, or go out there with if magnet sticks to it, great, beat it with a hammer. If it breaks, it's cast iron. Sometimes they'll let you do that, sometimes they won't. But that's found at a scrapyard. Most of my steel is found not at a scrapyard. I get my steel through a company called Altitude Steel. Altitude Steel, it's out of Denver, Colorado. This is not sponsored by them, this is just where I go. And the reason why I go there is because they have what is known as a drop area. Now, a drop area is this bar, for example. Ugh. I needed specifically 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch solid square bar for a build that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be building a grinder. There may or may not be a video on that one. But I needed it to be solid, and I needed it to be 1/2 inch by 1.5 by 1.5. That is not steel that they normally stock. However, they had some on hand because a previous customer needed it. So they ordered a huge 20-foot bar of it. Now, a 20-foot bar of that steel is $127 US. $127 US is a fair amount to pay when I only needed 4 feet. Well, guess how much I would have had to pay if they didn't have it on hand? You're right, $127, and I would have had 20 feet or 4 feet, my choice. Which is not too bad, but I have a lot of steel. I don't need that extra bit, and this is fair hefty. I mean, I have 1.5 inch and a quarter right here, solid, that I use for Hardy's tools and such. So how did I get this? Well, they had it lying about. It's what is known as a drop. It is too short or not their normal stock steel. Somebody ordered it or they cut it off short. This is a drop. These are drops. 99% of the steel here on these two areas I got at Altitude Steel as a drop. And the coolest thing about buying drop steel or drops is that you will usually pay by weight, not by length or anything else. This is roughly a 20-foot, I mean, these two pieces right here, which is 2 inch and 1.5 inch by 3/8. These are not drops. I had to buy these in this specific length. I bought 4 feet of these. This cost me $38. This 4-foot length of 1/2 inch, 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch, also cost me around $38. There's a hell of a lot more steel in this one. I can't lift that. And the reason why I was able to buy that is because drop steel is usually sold by weight. It is not sold by dimension. It is not sold by length. It is sold by weight. Now the prices, they figure the weight into these prices, but they don't care for drop steel. They just want to get rid of it. It is stuff that they have on hand. They're not going to throw it away, but for them it's effectively scrap. This is another good example of dropped steel. It is something that was on a plasma cutter. There's a whole bunch of holes in here. I had no clue what those holes are for. I picked this plate up for like $2, $3 because I bought it by weight. 80 cents a pound is what I pay. Now, it varies by how much you buy. My last steel purchase it cost me $152. $152. I bought these two purchased, because these are these are the only ones that I got off of their rack. I got this, I got a round, I got all of the plates down there, and I got a huge quench tank, which is not on this rack. It's actually in my wood shop. And that quench tank will be, you'll see it in another video. So that quench tank is 4 feet tall. It is, I think, 4 inches by 8 inches, and it's got 3/16 or 10 mil, 3/8 or 10 mil. It's 10 mil thick walls. It's not quite a 1/4 inch, but I don't care. I'm just using it to hold oil, so I didn't really care how thick the walls were. But you know, all of the steel, all the steel for my grinder and all the steel for my quench tank cost me $152. And that's really good, including this big old thick bar here, which by itself weighs about 50 pounds, 38, 40 pounds, okay? That is cool. So what I encourage you guys to do is, you know, when you're out looking for steel, go to scrapyards first if you have scrapyard near you. I don't have any scrapyards here in Colorado that I can actually easily go to. But I do have Altitude Steel, which has an artist drop area. And sometimes they're called artist drop areas. So basically what you want to do is you want to go to your local scrapyard, if you have one. We do not have a scrapyard here in Colorado, so I have to go to a steel yard. And if you go to a steel yard, a lot of steel yards will sell their drops for a lot cheaper than they sell their standard price dimensional steel. The reason for that is that that's stuff that they can't sell. No one's gonna want 2.5 feet of, you know, 1.25 by 3/8 of an inch. And usually they're gonna want them a lot longer than that so they can customize their length. Very rarely do people need that. It's also called an artist drop area because a lot of sculpture artists or steel artists likes to go there and grab steel for their various sculpture pieces, and they don't want to pay full price because they don't really care what the shape is. Part of the randomness comes from, you know, that bonus area. So this is what I encourage you guys to do, is to go to your local steel yard. You may have to go to a couple of them. I have 2 steel yards really close together, one of which, Altitude Steel, sells drops, one of which, I'm not even going to bother mentioning them, doesn't. Guess which one I go to? And that's the reason why I'm giving you their name. If you're in the Denver metro area or you can drive down to Denver, I highly encourage you to go to them. They treat artists well. I've been visiting them. All of the steel that I've purchased, for the most part, barring some small pieces that I purchased at like Ace Hardware, all of the steel that I've purchased have come from there. So go there, get your steel, you know, tell them I said hi, and make your life cheaper. That's all I have to say, because this entire rack that I just showed you, I want to say there's about $200 total invested in all of that steel. Total. I don't even think I spent that much. Mostly because of everything that's over there. I think the only thing that no, I've spent about that much, because a lot of that is, and all of it, except for those 2 pieces that I showed you and a couple other pieces, are drops from the same place. So with that, I highly encourage you to share this video, share the wealth, let everybody know what is what, and you know, this is not something that we should keep to ourselves. You know, make this hobby cheap, make it the best that you can, and you can find some big old blocks of steel to use for anvil-shaped objects too. You know, your anvil can be made out of whatever steel. So please share this video, like this video. I am going to post links to both Sam's video and Alex's at Valhalla Ironworks video, both down here and up there. And if you can and you want to, subscribe to this channel. I have a Patreon for people who wish to support it. Thank you, Keith. And if you want to support me, that would be marvelous. It's the only money that I make from this. If you want to send me stuff like stickers, by all means, send it to the address in the description below, and I'll happily receive that. I don't have yet to do any reviews, but if there's something you'd like me to review or like me to kit bash or something along those lines, feel free to send that too. I can't guarantee that I'll get to it, review it, or kit bash it, but I might. I like video ideas, so I hope you enjoy it. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Thanks all.